So I don't have a script for this, or I haven't really written out any notes, but I kind of wanted to talk about today how if Boris Johnson becomes the next Prime Minister, of course he's the Prime Minister now, in the election on Thursday, that it is a victory for Trumpism in British politics. Now, to many people, Trumpism might mean many different things, but in this context I am saying it basically means the denial of reality, the denial of facts, a party and a politician who will continually lie, outright lie, know they're lying all the time, everything out of their mouth is an outright lie, and that is their whole strategy for the election, misinformation and lying. That is what Trumpism is. Also, you can maybe factor in the demonisation of migrants, the demonisation of, I guess, some poor people, but I think that's more a Tory thing than Trump because he pretended he was for poor people. But yeah, generally Trumpism, hatred of non-white people, and of course, lying. So what has happened in this election lately, and pretty much a lot of elections, but it's been way worse this time, is the Tory party and the Tory party's propaganda arm, which is most of print media in this country, so I'm saying Sunday Times, Telegraph, Mail, Express, there's probably a lot of other ones, and then you've got the broadcast media, ITV, BBC, they're all in bed with the Tories, they're all either in their pocket or under their influence, and it's helped play into this culture of misinformation. So let's give you some examples. The BBC, while running their Remembrance Day coverage, used a clip of Boris Johnson laying a wreath down at a war memorial in 2016. Looks pretty normal, just goes up, lays the wreath down. Why is this controversial? Well, because in 2019, he messed up, he laid it upside down while he was Prime Minister. Now, the BBC ran this old clip from 3 years ago. Why would they run this old clip? If anyone has worked in any type of broadcast journalism or just any type of journalism, you know this will have to go for an editor first. So there's at least two people who have had to look at this. Two people who've looked at this and seen, Boris Johnson looks a bit different than that. Why is he standing with all these politicians who aren't in the mainstream anymore? Why is he standing with the old leader of the Liberal Democrats? Why is Theresa May there? Does no one notice these things? And they run that on TV. They run that. And obviously people called them out and they had to apologise. Maybe this is a one-off. A bit of a mistake. But of course, it's not a mistake. So Boris Johnson had a question time audience, and pretty much all the leaders did. A woman was asking a question to him, which gained a big amount of laughter in the crowd. The BBC edited out the laughter and ran the question as normal, right? Spread it everywhere. And they said, their excuse when they were called out, it was to save time, but people were putting the clips up against each other and saying, this barely saves any time, and it changes the overall context of the clip because people were laughing at him. The Tory party then took that and ran it on their pages, and the BBC was saying, oh no, please take this down, it doesn't represent what actually happened. But they created that in the first place. Again, at least two people have had to see that. I reckon there's more editors at somewhere like the BBC, so a couple people. So that is two instances. And then the third one was they scheduled all the leaders to go on to have an interview with Andrew Neil. Andrew Neil is that Conservative interviewer who destroyed Ben Shapiro for the BBC, if you all remember that video. So apparently Labour has said they had told them that everyone had signed up and it had been agreed, Boris Johnson included. Jeremy Corbyn went on, got a bit savage because this guy is a bit of a savage interviewer. Turns out Boris Johnson never agreed. He didn't go on and he hasn't gone on still. But Jeremy Corbyn went on thinking that was what's going to happen. So again, the BBC, all this misinformation, all this lying, they're totally in bed with Boris Johnson. That's the start of the Trumpism. It's just basically lying on behalf of him and trying to convince people our reality, what's that George Orwell quote in 1984? It's like the party told you, don't believe your eyes and ears, just believe what they say. That is basically what the BBC are doing right now. Let's play old clips of Boris Johnson to make him look better. Let's edit out laughter so it changes the context of this question this lady asked. Let's, tell Jeremy Corbyn, Boris Johnson's agreed. He's agreed to come on this interview with Andrew Neil, so you'll have it bad. But imagine Boris Johnson, he's such a big liar, he's going to get destroyed by Andrew Neil. But oh wait, he never agreed and he's not going on it. And then the BBC also said, well, we weren't going to let him go on Andrew Marr on a Sunday, but now because of the terrorism incident in London Bridge, we've got to. So again, more propaganda, more lies from the BBC. And that is just the BBC. That's meant to be impartial. We pay our taxes to fund them. I don't even want to talk about the journalists who work there, Laura Kusenberg and Nick Robertson, all these people who used to work either for the Tory party or have connections with them, run our impartial coverage where they just outright lie, focus on different things. So for example, Tory anti-Semitism, yeah, that's just recently come up, you don't see that covered, but Labour's anti-Semitism crisis compared to the Windrush scandal by the Tories, Boris Johnson's personal racism, what gets covered more? Again, it's all about lies, and it plays into this Trumpism, but that is not the only thing. During the leaders' debate, the Tory party changed their Twitter page to fact checker, and they would fact check everything Jeremy Corbyn said by just putting out their partisan lies. Again, misinformation and Trumpism. It's trying to convince you through all these lies that what you're actually seeing is not true. Believe the dear leader, believe the party, believe the Tories. That's all you should believe in. And I think this has a lot to do with Boris Johnson being really close with Steve Bannon, because it worked for Trump, and I don't think it might be working for Boris Johnson, especially when he has the whole media on his side. And then you have the print press in this country, which is way more powerful than in other countries, has such a big influence. They're all in bed with Johnson, and they're all just printing these lies 24/7. And now Johnson personally, he'll keep going on TV. He said, we're going to have 40 new hospitals, we're going to have 50,000 new nurses, and he keeps getting called out. He's like, we're not having 50,000 new nurses because you're counting lots of nurses that we have at the moment and putting them in that number. That's wrong. But he'll keep saying it, he'll keep double downing on it. And then that gets spread. The BBC will just publish that like propaganda. And again, I'm just thinking of another example. The BBC just published randomly Boris Johnson eating a scone and putting jam and cream on it. No context, just that. How is that okay for an impartial broadcaster? It makes me so angry. But again, BBC is essentially a state propaganda at this point, and this whole age of Trumpism, just trying to throttle this guy into everything and make you like him and repeat these claims that he's outright lying. But again, if you repeat something enough, you can imagine you're down the pub, maybe you're arguing politics, and someone's like, yeah, but Boris Johnson, he's going to save the NHS, he's going to make 50,000 new nurses. I heard that on BBC News that he's going to do that. Again, no scrutiny, just repeat his lies, repeat his claims, and that is how it just becomes the mainstream. Now, of course, Trump just lies about everything, so it looks even worse, but I think this is a more sophisticated version where it's just lying about every single thing in terms of policy. Everything. Nothing they say is true, and it's all about demonising Corbyn. And then The Sun recently also, they published, someone made a map of all these hard left extremists. The Sun published it like it was fact, but it was drawn up by neo-Nazis. Of course, it was some crazy conspiracy theory. And I'm just thinking about all this stuff in this election, how disgusting the BBC has been, how disgusting the media has been in not holding Johnson's lies to account. And they're just doing the work of him by muddying the waters. So, for example, Jeremy Corbyn obviously went on stage with documents that show that the Johnson government and the May government before, they're trying to sell off the NHS to American corporations and the American government. But they muddy the water by saying, well, it doesn't say they're technically going to sell off the NHS. It says they're going to allow Americans to charge way higher drug prices. They're going to liberalise the NHS. They're going to allow them more access to the NHS. They're not technically selling it. And then lately they've been saying, oh, this Reddit post looked like Russian propaganda. And that is what everyone is running with. Instead of, addressing what is actually in the document and in the post, they're saying it's Russian propaganda. Again, it's all these smears and all these things. It's like, don't believe this stuff. Believe what we are telling you. And it's just frustrating that it's working so well. So if he gets in, they've been lying even more than usual, the Tory party. And they always lie, but they've been lying more than usual. So it's going to be a victory for Trumpian-style politics of just say anything to win and don't back down ever. Never admit you're wrong. Always lie. Tell people what they want to hear. It's the same thing. Obviously, Hitler did the same thing. It's what fascists do. Tell people what they want to hear. It doesn't matter if it's true. Everything is, it's on. The NHS is struggling because of the migrants. The NHS is struggling because of Labour. In 2008, apparently, our Chancellor just said, believe all this stuff, and it's becoming a match of, I guess, it's like a football match. Like, so choose your side and then never back down, never see anything wrong with it. And I'm really afraid that if Boris wins, it just legitimizes this style of politics, and then if Corbyn has to resign and all this stuff, it's going to be so hopeless in this country. I really wish people weren't so dumb, and I've made videos about my opinions on if we have any free will or choice, or how angry should I feel towards people who vote for Boris Johnson if they've grown up in a certain climate and culture. Does anyone have a choice, really? And I'm throwing it out the window for this one and saying, don't trust some posh, rich, Bullingdon Club Eton twats. Don't trust someone like that, and don't trust that he thinks you're a human being. Don't trust that their economic ideology thinks of you as a person. They think of you as a unit. They think of you as a cog in the machine. They want to make as much money for them and their friends with your labour as they can. That is the difference between socialism and capitalists, right? Socialists and capitalists. One thinks of you as a human being. One thinks of you as a part of its economic system. Trust the person who thinks of you as a human being. Don't trust the person who's in bed with all rich. He's not going to save the NHS. Why haven't the Tories saved the NHS before? Why haven't they put more funding in it? Why has it just been total cuts? Austerity, which the UN has said is one of the worst economic systems in the world. People have said British capitalism is even worse than American capitalism in a lot of instances. And you trust the people who've been implementing that for nearly a decade to save you, to give you more jobs, save your NHS, get you a good deal on Brexit, or they're going to take Brexit, get a hard Brexit, rewrite the laws to benefit them and their friends. If you want to get some dystopian future, this is a good way to go. And obviously I'm super angry about this stuff, and I'm trying to change people's minds, but it's just stupid at this point. I don't care if you don't like Corbyn, I don't care if you don't like Labour, I don't even care about any of that stuff. It's just rich versus everyone else at this point. There's one party that will actually help you, in some ways at least. There's one party that the only reason you've got to vote for them is that if you make over 60 grand a year, you might get a tax cut. That's literally the only argument. What else are they going to do for you? And if you're some British bulldog who is so blinded by token issues of patriotism and Englishness that you will vote for someone like that, that is what they're using to trick you. Vote for the people who are like you. Vote for the party that is made up of diverse groups that represent what this country actually looks like. Don't vote for a bunch of white, posh, Eton fucking twads to save us and get us a good deal on Brexit. It's just a joke at this point. Please surprise me, England and the UK, and don't vote for him, or at least gridlock Parliament. I don't want a Tory majority. I don't want any of this stuff. And I'm totally done with this country if Boris Johnson gets elected. I've said before I don't feel English in any way. I'm not going to feel English in the slightest if we do this. I'm going to be even more disgusted than I was in 2016 after the Brexit vote. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Obviously, I'm very, very passionate about this stuff and I'm very angry, but I'd like to hear what you guys think. Hopefully you agree with a lot of what I said, and I know you guys are facing a similar choice in America between Bernie and the corporate Dems, and hopefully it'll be Bernie versus Trump, so it'll be a similar choice there. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me at The Cavernacle on both Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me on Reddit, that is u/TommyCahill1995. If you want to check out my Patreon, it's in the description. If you want to check out my WordPress, in the description as well. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.